Dear moderators, participants, and followers on social media platforms, good evening. My name is Sultan Majid. I am pleased to welcome you to this important panel discussion, which comes a few days after the world celebrated the International Days of Human Fraternity. I'm also pleased to deliver the opening speech on behalf of Dr. Mohammed Al Ali, the Director General of Trends Research and Advisory. On the 4th of February, the world celebrated the International Days of Human Fraternity. For the first time, it was the culmination of joint Emirati initiative in cooperation with Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Egypt. The idea was to make this a day a global occasion for promoting human fraternity and establishing its values so that they become among basic principles in the relation between nations and people. There is no doubt that the world today, more than ever, needs to uphold the values of fraternity and establish a human cohesion. This is a critical not only for confronting the forces of intolerance, extremism, and discrimination, sweeping many parts of the world, but also restore the values of ethics and international relations. Some of these values have declined dramatically with outbreak of COVID-19 and the increasing danger extremism group, which strive to sow the seed of hatred and intolerance. Our panel discussion today is part of the vision. It showcases our belief in the importance of the role played by research centers in supporting international efforts and initiatives to enhance the foundation of regional and international peace, security, and stability. The notion of a human fraternity has taken a high priority on the global community agenda recently, given the efforts to make a human fraternity a governing principle and the relations between nations, people, and religions. This panel discussion also aims to develop new ideas and insights that support centers' call for establishing a global system to enhance a human fraternity and further the case of international security and stability. We seek to build upon the UAE lead achievement in this regard. On this note, I welcome you all once again, and I'll give the floor to our moderator, Dr. Mohammed Farid. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Sultan. Thank you very much. Your pertinent introduction. In fact, you set the frame for our discussion. Hi, everyone. My name is Mohammed Farid Azzi. I am a senior researcher at Trend Advisory and Research Center. And I welcome you and I appreciate your participation in this event. I also extend my thanks to our viewers who can watch us on our YouTube channels on the website. It is diffused in Arabic and in English as well. Of course, as my colleague Sultan said, our topic of today is towards a global system enhancing human fraternity. So the purpose is an attempt, in fact, to build on the Brotherhood Initiative that already exists, to build on it through a network of international research centers and for the support of this, the initiative itself of fraternity. And but the aim in the midterm would be to find, in fact, an umbrella, a global organization for human brotherhood. We know that the UN has, of course, adopted this initiative, and but beside this, I think we can also gather efforts in order to help into this endeavor. Of course, the topic itself cannot be timier. It's a good time. That it comes in times, of course, as we all know, times of big uncertainties, times of well, we're having pandemics, we're living through it. We have, of course, extremism still going on, and civil wars, some places, and hardship related, of course, to climate change and etc. But to be fair, that of course, humanity has made huge strides, in fact, in making many perils confronting men, such as diseases and hazard and hunger as well. And this is by drawing on scientific and technological progress. However, in spite of this, the progress made into regulating and preventing conflicts and coordinating international effort, challenges confronting these problems through bilateral and multilateral efforts. The UN has played a big role as well. But still, the international community still struggle with these issues. Some of them old, like wars, and some of them are new. It's like climate change, for example. Inequality, access to even access to medicine. The world still face huge challenges as well. But it is in the domain of the international relations, in fact, that as the French would say, the shoe picks, or le bas blesse, where there are most deficiencies, as shown by the lack of cooperation, for example, and coordination during the COVID-19. We know everybody becoming egoistic and everybody pulling the pillow to himself. It has demonstrated that how much the system of value and ethics needs to be restored and maybe strengthened. In this context, the recent unanimous adoption by the United Nations General Assembly of the initiative put forward by the United Arab Emirates, and considering that the 4th of February of each year as the World Day of a Human Brotherhood, that the world has just celebrated last week. And it is for the first time, of course. Without doubt, this initiative is of great importance, not only for its timing, but also for its content and the high-level objective it seeks to achieve. First and foremost, the consolidation of human values, such as the acceptance of others, openness, empathy, cooperation, in order to face these challenges. This initiative, of course, provides solution to many negative phenomena that threaten both the regional and the international peace and security. The introduction of the concept of human brotherhood, you may tell me, how is it different from other concepts that have been in use, like tolerance and all, and concepts that are, but of course here is academic debate, what the difference. I think the concept of human brotherhood was accompanied, first of all, by the historic meeting that happened in between the two largest figures of the two biggest religion, Islam and Christianity. And also, and I would quote, the document states, through our sincere and fraternal talks, and in a meeting filled with hope and for bright tomorrow for all human beings, the idea of document for human brotherhood was born and acted open with sincerity and seriousness as a joint declaration of good and sincere intention in order to call upon those who have faith in God and faith in human brotherhood to unite and work together for those documents to become a guide for the future. The concept then that we have celebrated last week, it's broader and more comprehensive than its previous concept that expresses a humanism, because it involves both religious and secular people. And it expands, also open to non-religious, non-believers as well. Of course, religion cannot, quite often it has been accused of being the justification for violence, but religions are not to breed or a breed of war. The great religious men bear the brunt of storms and hatred falsely attributed after the religion. and consider that religion have been and will continue to be the faith of moral heroes of all the evils of which they are now ascribed, from some of those who practice them and others who accuse religion of them. On the anniversary of the publication of the document, we would like to point out the growing impact of the Abu Dhabi Declaration 2 years after its adoption, both from a global actor and from those of the major religion and those of a global civil society. Then religion has a great role in pacifying international relations. To this end, we have gathered here participants of different religions to discuss ways to build on the brotherhood initiative toward the global system enhancing human fraternity. So in this discussion, we have 5 themes. The first is the brotherhood of humanity, concepts, foundation, and platforms. It will be presented by Imam Yahya Palavicini, president of the community of Islamic religion in Italy. The second theme is to do with the gateway to enhancing international peace and security, and will be presented by Dr. Arvind, chairman of Buddhist Monuments Development Council in the Republic of India. The third theme, the mechanism to enhance a global culture of a human fraternity. I'm sorry, I have been told that Dr. Mohammed Bashari would be the fifth, the last theme. So the third will be the content and the importance of the document on human fraternity, presented by Russell Robinson, CEO of Jewish National Fund, the United States. And the fifth will be a global, the fourth will be the global system to promote human fraternity, challenges and opportunities, by Gilles-Emmanuel Jacquet, for a lecturer, for an analyst in Geneva School for Diplomacy and International Relations from Switzerland. So I think with this, we'd like to start our first, give floor to our first speaker, Dr. Yahya Palavicini. The floor is yours.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Best wishes of health and many thanks to Trend Research Society for this so kind invitation. And if I may say, congratulations for really trying to launch an international cooperation on the basis of the Abu Dhabi Declaration on Human Fraternity. I am glad to share this occasion, and I actually support the importance and the need to implement the values and the principles of the Abu Dhabi Declaration on Human Fraternity in concrete fields and areas of research and work and cooperation at an international level. I'm also, if I may say, very honored and glad to pay my respect and best wishes in regards to His Excellency Muhammad al-Bashari, who is my Secretary General, because he's the Secretary General of the World Muslim Communities Council that is based in Abu Dhabi, and I'm so honored to be part of the executive board members trying to work in the interreligious dialogue field. My presentation will be actually starting with a few keywords that I feel that the document on human fraternity have been somehow focused on finding some guidelines as solutions. The 4 keywords would be ignorance, abuse, discrimination, and violence. The document on human fraternity provides solutions or guidelines for launching interreligious dialogue and cooperation, and on the basis of human fraternity, in order to overcome ignorance, overcome abuse, overcome discrimination and violence. And the idea is that, especially coming from Italy and from the West, and I'm glad that also, of course, Professor Gilles Emmanuel Jacquet comes from Switzerland, and of course, Muhammad al-Bashari, he's an international speaker from Abu Dhabi and from France, and so he can link East and West. But coming from Europe, the perception is that there is an ignorance of religion, and there is an abuse of the ignorance of religion in order to create sometimes discrimination, juridical and cultural discrimination, and other times violence in terms of political agendas, apologetic propagandas, and extremist criminal attacks. So this is the unfortunate negative scenario. The Abu Dhabi Declaration on Human Fraternity provides guidelines to overcome these misleading prejudice and analysis. And so somehow it helps us to create the basis for knowledge, for education, for training. And these are the main fields I am mainly concerned in Italy, and I was also involved in Switzerland, in the university in Zurich, on the basic on how to teach religion, how to make religions better known, and how to implement interreligious cooperation in the society and in the training of teachers and of citizens in the West. And so if we provide through the Human Fraternity Declaration the implementation of an educational training for knowledge of interreligious cooperation, this will help to facilitate and to overcome the ignorance of religion and of Islam specifically. But if I may say, it's also an ignorance of the Jewish community, of all religious minorities, because there is a confusion between Western identity and Christianity, and there is an ignorance of Christianity and of Christianities, Catholic Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, Protestant Christianity, and there is an ignorance of other religious identities, such as the Islamic identity, the Jewish identity, the Buddhist identity, or the Hindu identity. So the field of the Human Fraternity Declaration starts from a Islam or Christian dialogue, but I think it helps interreligious dialogue much more wider in a broader sense. And it avoids also another key word, which was abuse and discrimination and violence. Because unfortunately, an apologetic political agenda sometimes brings one group or one identity against the other. So you have one specific religious group pretending to create a propaganda, a negative propaganda, a violent propaganda, a discriminatory propaganda against religious diversity within our same community and out of one community. So there is a risk, a danger of a homogenization of a narrative of what is Islam, what is Christianity, what is Judaism, and creating a conflict between one identity, a clash of civilizations, of identities, of religions, one against the other. And this is completely wrong. It's part, of course, of ignorance, but it's where ignorance goes into the abuse. One abuses of one identity to create a conflict and a discrimination against another identity and to create violence. Now, with this agenda, unfortunately, sometimes in the West and in Europe and in Italy, there is a second way of creating discrimination, which is a juridical political discrimination that has difficulties to manage the link and the relation between the civil society and the religious beliefs and doctrines. So in somehow the secular interpretation becomes a ultra-secularist interpretation going against the pluralism and the freedom of religion. And so in somehow you have a conflict between the ultra-secular interpretation of politics against the citizens as believers of any religious community. And so this is, of course, something which is creating a gap between faith and reason, between religion and politics, between citizens and believers. And so once again, the Human Fraternity Abu Dhabi Declaration has helped to match, to link, to cooperate, to create in the diversity of identities, a cooperation and a dialogue and a respect of unity. So we are Western, Eastern citizens, and we are believers in Allah, we are believers in God, we are believers in truth, and we can have brothers as citizens, as believers in the East and in the West. This is very important because, of course, if this culture helps, then juridically and politically, the concept of citizenship becomes a much more serious concept, because one can engage as a believer and one can engage as a secular civil servant in any field of the community and of society. So this is, I think, the main message I would like to consider, because as it was mentioned by our moderator and by, I think, Trend Initiative, our responsibility as citizens and as religious leaders, but also as theologians or academics, is really to link the secular context, the noble principles of citizenship, with the responsibility of believers and of communities as part of religious freedom, diversity, pluralism, and engagement as Western citizens. So in other terms, my last points would be: one should reduce the double standards. One should reduce the stereotypes on diversity. One should actually consider the diversity and the richness of religious and cultural identities as part of human society, as part of brotherhood, as part of the richness of the values of citizens in the East and in the West. And this is actually our main challenge, to try to respect diversity within our own communities and out of the other communities, and also in secular democratic institutional representativities. So of course, if I may say, the interpretation of secular society or institutions in Italy is different than in France. Is it different than in Germany? Is different than other countries in Africa, Asia, Middle East, or Southeast Asia. But so there is a diversity of a political interpretation of secular system and democracy, and there is a variety of unity in diversity of Islam and of all religions. If you think of Judaism, you have Sephardic Jews, you have Ashkenazi Jews, you have in Islam, you have Sunnah and Shia, you have theological denominations, you have Sufi brotherhoods. So you should not confuse a national identity with a religious identity. These are situations that are much more widely present in all contexts. And the last point is that to implement the human fraternity values, a program of interdisciplinary methodology should be studied in all fields of society. So as Trends, I think, has proposed, we could study how to implement these universal values in the field of economy, so ethics and economy, interreligious cooperation and security, ethics and professional expertise for finding solutions in terms of entrepreneurship or management of employees or management of refugees and migrants. So integration process in the business world in the West. And as well, of course, as was mentioned before, economy means also conventional economy, but also ethics within business. And of course, within Islamic tradition, you have these Sharia-based orientation of finance, which can lead to what is Islamic finance or sukuk or investments with ethical bases, and that can lead also to the halal system, which is also a system that implements principles of law in food, in pharmaceutics, and in all fields of human development. So I think if an interdisciplinary council with the proposal of Trends can link think tanks, religious leaders, and institutions, we can actually have a good, interesting research field to advise institutions on how to implement the core issues of the document of Abu Dhabi on human fraternity for a better society, with a better knowledge, with a better cooperation, with a better justice, and especially, if I may say, with the inner and outer peace, which is part of our main goals as religious leaders and also as citizens in Europe as well as in the East. So I think that I would, of course, concentrate mainly on training and education, but in the spectrum of my local responsibilities, this could be something very interesting to provide also to European Parliament, European Commission, even in terms of how to link a theological implementation of interreligious cooperation in the field of a vision of humanity and society with the challenges that we are facing in contemporary society. I think I will end for the moment here, and I thanks again Trend for this kind invitation, and all my regards and wishes for the next speakers. I'll be glad to listen to, and of course to your blessed country, the United Arab Emirates, that I'm glad I had the honor to visit and to participate several times as a host of during the Tolerance Year also of the World Muslim Council communities with President Noaimi and with the Secretary General, His Excellency Mohammed Al-Bashar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much, Dr. Yahya. And thank you for this very enlightening, really, analysis. And thank you for recalling the principles, the 5 principles, and especially the way you try to bridge, in fact, the principles with the context of that you live in Europe. The context of course, secular states in Europe, of course, as I said into our little chat before the opening to the session, that you have a very, in fact, very big challenge, but also very exciting challenge into contributing from different points of view, from different religion, into the civil society where you live. And then, of course, when you, the way you did it, you simplify it and then you explain it, I think you take off this you know, the feeling of rejections by principle, and then you make it look very much human. I mean, this is when you talk about ethical economy, when you talk about rules of citizenship and of civility, and I think this is one way of you know, of contributing, of course, to the of diminuting the ignorance and confronting all the discrimination that arises from that. I think this is one of a very big challenge. Thank you very much. And as some of our colleagues haven't joined in, so I would like to go to the second speaker in our session, and that'll be our colleague Gilles Emmanuel Jacquet, who will be talking about a global system to promote human fraternity, challenges and opportunities. And I would just like a few words to say about our speaker. Gilles Emmanuel is he's in history and international relations. He's from Switzerland, and he's in Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations. The floor is yours, Mr. Gilles Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohamed Faredazi, Dr. Mohamed Bishari, Dr. Yaya Paravicini. I'm very happy to be invited to this, let's say, important discussion, because it's a very important topic nowadays. So before starting my, it's not really a speech, but rather kind of discussion about several issues related to our main topic. So I'm quite concerned about this topic, because I have, I mean, I'm French, I'm working in Switzerland, I'm of a Christian background, but I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, in Central Asia. So I was able as well to see what it means to talk about interfaith dialogue, or just to live and to work with people of different religious backgrounds. And then you realize that even though there are some differences related to history, culture, and traditions, you can clearly find a common ground. And it's what happened. I spent some time in Afghanistan. I worked and lived there for a while. And I realized that the beginning, we always had some kind of stereotypes on both sides, but then we realized that in fact we had a lot of common points, especially with our vision of what can religion bring to our contemporary world. What can various religious traditions do in order to play a role in peace building, and as well to, if I can say, even warn people about some recent developments, especially with regard to ethics. So I'm going to talk about all these issues, and in fact, I'm very happy of the intervention of Mr. Paravicini, because he outlined many issues that I will talk about, and moreover, I agreed with his analysis. So the Abu Dhabi Declaration for Human Fraternity is an important document. It's not the first step with regard to interfaith or interreligious dialogue. However, it's an important one because it's gathering many efforts, many groups, many people, scholars, organizations, and networks. It shows that there is a common effort, a will, but as well the urge and the understanding of such urge and such need for more cooperation. The current international context, honestly, is not the best ever. We have ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, in North Africa, in parts of Asia. We have as well conflicts of low intensity in Europe. We have as well in the Americas. So obviously, globalization hasn't delivered all its promises. So in this case, for some people, it's obvious that we should still look forward and not think about religion. Religion is the past. It's a very reductive approach. It's the approach we can see with people who are blaming religion for all the evils, all the conflicts we see in the world. It's a very reductive approach. And as said by Mr. Pallavicini, we clearly see that there are still a lot of stereotypes and ignorance, and from all sides in a way. We have misconceptions about religion in the medias. It's something we can see as well in the Western societies currently with the debates we have over secularism. And secularism as well, there is an issue with its definition. In France, it seems to be more and more radical in a way, or to be a sort of militant atheism. And it's posing as well a debate in not very convenient terms. I mean that then you are forced to choose either the side of, let's say, this governmentally defined secularism, but is in fact blind in a way to religious group. And on the other side, with regard to this debate, you have those who are considered by militant atheists as extremists, for example. So it's very hard in such conditions when people are not posing the debates in proper terms, when it's really Manichaean, it's based on a Manichaeist approach. It's not very helping, and it's creating more tension, as we can see in France or in some Western European societies. So, ignorance among even existing religious communities, among the medias, the Western government. And it's true, there is a confusion, for example, as well about Western identity and Christianity in other geographical areas in the world. But at the same time, in Western societies, there are huge misconceptions and misunderstandings or simply ignorance about what is Islam, what are the traditions of Islam. Some people tend to react in the same way, which is not true at all. So it's very important, I would say, for NGOs, for religious groups, to find platforms where they can, first of all, discuss, see what they can do, and see then how they can disseminate their ideas and solutions among society. I have to say that as well, it's important to go back to some fundamentals with regard to international relations, let's say international law and the UN. If we talk about religious extremism, and especially people usually think about, let's say, conflicts in the Middle East with what we saw with Daesh and other organizations, we have to understand as well what are the responsibilities of Western governments. The responsibilities with regard to what happened in Iraq, what happened in Libya, in Syria, Yemen, or other countries. These US-led or Western-led interventions, they led to more chaos, there is no doubt about it, and it played a role in the growth of religious extremism. So we realize that when Western governments or superpowers do not respect international law, do not respect the UN Charter, we usually head towards such kind of problems. So I would say, with regard to that, we have as well the problem related to the instrumentalization of religion or political and religious groups for political or geopolitical agendas. And we saw cases where extremism was even fostered, used, fueled by Western countries that needed, let's say, cannon fodder on the ground. So this geopolitical rivalry and especially US-led interventions in the Middle East, they played a disastrous role in the growth of political and religious extremism. So I think it's not just up role of think about that, to find ways to do it, but we have as well to address the UN. I have spent some time at the United Nations as a journalist for Sputnik News and Pax Press Agency, a Roman Catholic press agency. And I have to say, okay, first, religious organizations are in a way contributing to the work of the UN. You have a lot of religious NGOs or religious organizations that are represented or that can participate to debates. However, they usually do it under the guise of NGOs or under the auspices of governments. So it means that at the UN, religious organizations don't have a real autonomy, a real capacity of being heard. So that's the first thing. I saw how at the UN we could set some platforms for inter-religious dialogue. And in Geneva, we are quite active with that, especially the Holy See mission. So we invite all religious congregations once a year for religious celebration, but there are as well seminars and side events at the UN that are regularly organized. I have to say that usually people are quite respectful and polite with regard to the actions of these religious organizations at the UN. However, I think it's just a sort of superficial respect that there's no real will for the moment to engage religious communities and to really hear what they have to say. So I would even say that in fact, religious leaders, especially Muslim, Christian, and Jewish leaders, should put more pressure on their governments and the UN. And for these endeavors, for these, let's say, there were some successes. If I have to be more concrete, if people would like to know what happened with regard to interreligious dialogue, what were the concrete achievements? There were concrete achievements. You had the case, for example, the Sant'Egidio platform that is supported by the Roman Catholic Church. It's a community of monks. They played a role in peace building and negotiations with regard, for example, to the civil war, as we can call it, in Algeria in the 90s. They organized a gathering in the beginning of 1995, and it played a role in at least gathering people who wanted a peaceful change in Algeria. But then it took more years for implementing changes in Algeria. We had the case of Guatemala in 96, of Kosovo in 98. The Sant'Egidio platform was quite effective in gathering ethnic groups or religious groups and pushing them to find a common solution. In the Central African Republic as well, we saw initiatives taken by the head of the Protestant communities of Bangui, the great Mufti of Bangui, and the Archbishop Monsignor Nzapala Inga, the Archbishop of Bangui. They played a role as well in enforcing, let's say, some measures, especially in the capital city, for example, going into the neighborhoods, organizing discussion among people. The religious leaders were participating to discussions. They were walking in the neighborhoods, reassuring people. So it played a role. However, it may not be enough right now to bring peace in the Central African Republic, but it contributed. At least it showed that something can be done. And we have as well the case of religious NGOs active in the Middle East that are not just providing humanitarian assistance to their fellow believers, but as well to people of other communities. Is what I have been able to witness in Syria with the help provided by the Roman Catholic Church of the various Orthodox churches to various populations around Damascus or Halab or other areas. It's not just, let's say, oh, you're a Christian, you will receive support from a Christian NGO. No, it's not how it works. And especially Muslims and Christians know that you cannot help a person just because of his or her religious affiliation. Charity is given to all, and it's our strength in a way. So there are reasons to hope. However, I have to say that the struggle, pressure. I would like again to make a bridge with what has been said by Mr. Pallavicini, but nowadays, cooperation between religious organizations is not just important with regard to the conflicts we have in the Middle East or in some regions in Africa, but it's very important, especially with regard to all the recent developments we have with regards for example, to applied sciences, to medicine, especially with regard to this issue of what people call transhumanism. Some people believe it's progress. However, there are very few debates about it and where it's leading us. And in this case, I strongly believe that Jews, Muslims, Christians, but as well Hindus, Buddhists, and others can provide their insight, can open debates, talk about ethics. And I think that with regard to our spiritual traditions and legacy, especially among those who are, let's say, the descendants of Abraham, it's in a way our duty. It's in a way our duty to remind people that they should think first about the implications of all these developments we see. And once again, one place where we can make a contribution, it's the United Nations, should it be in New York or in Geneva. So I strongly believe that believers in God and truth can cooperate as they share a common spiritual legacy, tradition, and understanding of contemporary problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaked. This is a very interesting speech, intervention. In fact, you have brought in many, many elements of debate where this is related to intern to Western countries. You're talking about problem of identity, problem of Western or to the international relation issues, and I like really this your remark and your analysis on how little the religious dimensions are considered into international relations. Okay, you have mentioned many instances of cooperation, as you mentioned the NGOs, the role of many institutional religions into peace making, like Saint Egidio and others. But also the problem is this, does it have an effect on the laws governing these international institutions? Maybe we come back to all this point into the debate, but I think this is a very important, a very important point. And this, I don't know, it seems to me that long time in the European traditions of secularism, religion was put aside and once for all as a private practice, and then it is very little involved into these global issues. And God knows that these global issues are sometimes basically religiously based, or at least that's how they look. So can we deal with the conflict or with predicament that are religious with the non-religious laws, or that religion doesn't have any input in that thing? So I think this is the debate is very interesting, and the point that you made are quite pertinent, and thank you very much for that. And now you're welcome. Now they've been told that one of our colleagues had a problem of technical problem of getting with us, our friend from India. But for that reason, we're going to go to Dr. Mohammed Bishari, and we'd like to hear from him. And just to inform you that our colleague will be speaking in Arabic. I think we can switch to the Arabic version in our channel. Mr. محمد بشاري تفضل عزيزي كلمة لك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أول بدء أشكر مركز ترانس على تنظيمي لهذه الندوة المهمة والتي جمعت كوكبة من العلماء والمختصين ورموز الديانات السماوية والفلسفات الوضعية لتناقش مبادرة جميلة ومهمة جسدت روح التسامح لدى القيادة الراشدة في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وهي مبادرة الأخوة الإنسانية. أشكر أخي الدكتور محمد فريد على إدارته لهذه الندوة، وأنا جد سعيد أن أشارك بجانب أخي يحيى بلافيتشيني وصديق جيل إيمانويل جاكي في هذا البانيل. عسانا أننا كل أحد منا يلمس لمسة من لمسات إثراء هذا الموضوع، موضوع الأخوة الإنسانية، خاصة ونحن نحيي الذكرى السنوية الثانية على إطلاق هذه المبادرات، ثم تأتي كذلك في ظرفية زمانية ومكانية جد مهمة. في ظرفية مكانية هو في دولة الإمارات التي استطاعت أن تطلق عدة مبادرات، كان ذلك مبادرات إسلامية، كان مبادرات إسلامية مع الطوائف الدينية الأخرى مثل حلف الفضول، مثل مبادرة الأخوة الإنسانية وغيرها من المبادرات، كانت تهدف دائما إلى صناعة ثقافة السلم والسلام، وكيف يمكن تفعيل منظومات القيم الإنسانية في حياتنا وفي خلال التشريعات ومن خلال المنظومات التربوية وغيرها. مبادرة الأخوة الإنسانية تأتي كبكورة لكل الجهود الدولية التي عرفها العالم بداية في تقريبا بعد الحرب العالمية الثانية بتأسيس منظمة الأمم المتحدة، بتأسيس منظمات متخصصة، كانت في الثقافة اليونسكو، كانت في منظمات أخرى من أجل تحقيق السلم والسلام والأمن والأمان، وكانت أول مبادرة حوارية بين المسلمين والمسيحيين. كانت الانطلاقة من فاتيكان II الذي كونسول II الذي أرسى قواعد للفضاء المسيحي، الاعتراف بالأديان والطوائف الدينية الأخرى، وأن ينطلق في حوار جاد مع رموز الديانات. مبادرات من عند المسلمين بدأت من عند معروف الدوالبي، عبد الله عمر نصيف، حامد الرفاعي وغيره من الأعلام في أواخر الستينات بداية السبعينات، وكانت أول وثيقة توقع بين جانب إسلامي وجانب الفاتيكان تقريبا كمبادرة، يعني كاتفاق نوايا أو إطلاق نوايا مشتركة مع جمعية الدعوة الإسلامية العالمية في 75، ثم مع المنظمة الهاشمية في بداية 80، ثم مع الأزهر الشريف في عهد الشيخ جاد الحق علي جاد الحق بتأسيس مركز الحوار مع الشيخ فوزي زفزاف وغيره، إلى أن تأتي حرب الحادي عشر من سبتمبر، والعالم يكتشف بأنه مع الأسف الشديد أن تشكل لمحورين، محور الخير ومحور الشر، ومحور الشر تكتل من حوله عدة إيديولوجيات وعدة ثقافات أصلت لما يسميه معروف أمين معلوف بالهويات المقاتلة، أي أنه تأسيس لثقافة العدمية وثقافة العنف وثقافة الموت، إما انطلاقا من قراءة خاطئة للنصوص الدينية كجماعات المتشددة الإسلامية من ما يسمى بالإسلام السياسي وغيره، أو من الجماعات والتيارات الكراهية، كراهية الآخر. يشهد المحفل الدولي في 2011 مبادرة الملك عبد الله الخادم الحرمين الشريفين بمبادرة القانون 65/224 الصادر يوم 11 أبريل 2011، والداعي إلى تجريم ازدراء الأديان، وأنه لا يمكن أن نعيش في زمن ما يسمى بقدسية الحرية الرأي والتعبير والصحافة، والتي قد تمس في التجاوز حرية وقدسية ممارسة الشعائر التعبدية أو ما تعتقده الجماعات الدينية والطوائف الدينية في رموزها. تأتي كذلك تقريبا في نفس السنة أو قبلها بشوية بمبادرة الملك عبد الله الثاني لإطلاق ما يسمى بعد مبادرة كلمة سواء اليوم الأسبوع العالمي للإخاء أو الوئام للوئام العالمي أو وئام الأديان، اللي هو أول أسبوع من شهر فبراير كل سنة. مبادرات كثيرة نراها تأتي في 2018 ذروة هذه الجهود من الجانب الإسلامي ومن الجانب المسيحي أن تكون هناك لأول مرة انطلاقة مؤسساتية ومؤسسة انطلاقة. هذه الانطلاقة أسست من خلال وثيقة حررها واتفق عليها قطبين أساسيين يمثلان أكثر من 80 أو أكثر من 70% من سكان العالم، البابا الفاتيكان ويمثل الفضاء المسيحي بكل أطيافه ومذهبياته، ثم فضيلة الشيخ الأزهر الإمام الأكبر الشيخ أحمد الطيب الذي يمثل الفضاء الإسلامي عموما. تتفق هذه الوثيقة وتنطلق من خلال المشترك الإنساني والتأكيد عليه من قدسية الحياة وإعطاء دور للعائلة والولاء للأوطان وتفعيل المشترك الإنساني والعمل على تأصيل لثقافة السلم والحوار والتسامح، وأن نغير العالم وتساهم الرجال الأديان إلى أن يكون هناك عالم خالي من الحروب أو عالم يسوده الوئام والاتهام. تأتي الآن نحن أمام تحديات. التحدي الأكبر لهذه الوثيقة أو لمشروع وانطلاقة الأخوة الإنسانية، وهذا باتفاق الجميع، هو كيف يمكن أن ننتقل من حوار الأديان إلى حوار أتباع الأديان، وأن ننزل هذا الحوار من حوار المتخصصين ورجال الدين إلى حوار الشعوب، إلى حوار الثقافات، إلى تأصيل ذلك في الشارع العام، حتى يمكن أن يكون هناك تشكيل في الرأي العام الجمعي وفي الثقافة الشعبية تقبل الآخر باختلافه برغم خلافه للدين أو العقيدة أو اللون أو الجسد. هذا أكبر تحدي نعيشه اليوم، وهذا من هنا أقترح وأختم يعني ورقتي أو مداخلتي في المواضيع التالية. لا يمكن أن يكون هناك حوار جاد بين أتباع الأديان إلا إذا اجتهدت كل الطوائف الدينية على نفسها، وأنها تنطلق انطلاقة وتأخذ مسافة مهمة مع تراثها الفكري وتاريخها في علاقتها مع الآخر. وهذا لا يمكن أن يبدأ إلا من خلال أولاً تصحيح الصورة الآخر في مناهجنا الدراسية، وأن لا يمكن إلى الآن أننا نستمر في صورة سيئة أو سلبية للمخالف، وإنما يجب العمل على أن يكون هناك صورة مشرقة حقيقية للآخر إذا أردنا أننا نؤسس لهذه الشراكة الإنسانية اللي وباء كورونا جعل من حتميتها ومن حتمية الشراكة أن يكون هناك تكافل إنساني رصد أمام كل تداعيات العولمة المتوحشة التي شهدها العالم في القرن الماضي. ثانياً، العمل على تصحيح صورة الإسلام وصورة الآخر في الإعلام سواء كان ذلك في الإعلام الغربي أو كان ذلك في إعلامنا في الوطن العربي والوطن الإسلامي. إن العالمين يشهدان مع الأسف الشديد نموا لتيارات العدمية والتطرف والكراهية، فإسلاموفوبيا قد تنتشر في الشمال والغرب فوبيا قد تنتشر في الجنوب. ولهذا كان لازما على الحكماء والعقلاء العمل سويا على تصحيح هذه الصورة في إعلامنا المعاصر إذا أردنا بالفعل أن يكون المقصود والموضوع من حواراتنا هم أبناؤنا من الجيل الثاني والجيل الثالث. وثالثا العمل على وضع منظومات قيم إنسانية مشتركة، سواء كان ذلك في مناهجنا التربوية أو التعليمية أو كان ذلك في برامجنا الإعلامية، وأن تتحول كل المشاهد التي من خلالها يتحرك هذه التيارات العدمية أن تصبح هناك مداخل إيجابية من أجل إنضاج ثقافة حوارية إيجابية تعمل على صناعة الأمل وعلى تجسير الهوة بين المنظومات الفكرية كانت غربية أو كانت شرقية. في آخر كلمة بشكر المركز إدارة ورئاسة وقيادة، وأشكر أخي الدكتور محمد فريد على إعطاء هذا المجال في هذه المداخلة المتواضعة، قناعة منا واعتقادا أن يمكن لهذه المراكز التفكير أنها تصنع فكرا ورؤية واستراتيجية، وأن تكون بالفعل قوة ضغط للقيم وقوة ضغط من أجل الخير. ذلك ما نرجوه، وهذا ما علمتنا ثقافة أبو ظبي حتى صارت عاصمة السلم والسلام والتسامح. وشكرا.
شكرا لك دكتور محمد بشاري على هذه المداخلة الجميلة. أشكرك كثيرا، خصوصا أنك أعطيتنا أرضية تاريخية جيدة اللي ذكرتنا بالتسلسل التاريخي لبداية الحوار هذا، وهذا مهم أن نذكره فعلا لأنه المسائل تأتي بشكل تراكمي. ثانيا أنك طرحت السؤال الأساسي يعني اللي هو كيف لنا أن ننزل بهذا الحوار اللي هو حوار نخبوي إلى حوار شعبي، طبعا إلى ثقافة شعبية، وهذا طبعا سؤال $1,000,000 ولكن أعتقد هذا تحدي من التحديات، ونعتقد كما أنك في نفس الوقت ذكرت بالسبل طبعا، والمسألة الأساسية هي النية، هي أن هل للناس يعني هي كالعبادات يجب أن تكون عندك نية. أول شيء يعني أنه هل كل الناس متفقة على فعلا البدء في نشر هذه أنا أعتذر بس لأنه ممكن في زملاء يتابعونا بالإنجليزي، فمعليش أستاذي محمد أتعذر منك. I was just saying that I found that the intervention made by Dr. Muhammad brought very important point to discussion. In fact, he reminded us of a whole historical process, in fact, that had preceded the last initiative, the initiative of Fraternity. But at the same time, well, this is a good base to start, because I think accumulate. I think we don't have to be, well, in those matters, the evolution is very slow, of course. Culture doesn't change that quickly. Stereotype don't fall that quickly. But I think if we keep on these initiatives, every time it makes just one step forward, I think we can consider that is a gain. That is one. Secondly, Dr. Muhammad also he posed the main question whether now, so far, this discussion and dialogue has been quite elitist among elites, either from main religions. But one would be the most important thing. It has to find ways that this discussion would take place among main people, normal people, down the street, as we say in this expression. And for that, he proposes ways that, of course, first of all, that every side has to have this goodwill, first of all. It has to decide that it's going to implement this principles. And that's, the ways are easy. Well, we can do that through education. We can do that through, of course, mass media. We can do that about many ways, as Dr. Yahya had mentioned in his intervention as well at the beginning. So I think the most important thing is the decision that has to be made, and well, we can find ways to do this. I think here in the Emirate, as far as education is concerned, they have implemented 2 years ago moral education, and that teaching the general moral principles that link humanity. So one decision is there, you can make it happen through the means. I think we'll come later to discuss with you as well, to enrich this debate about the principles and the ways of implementing these principles as well. I have been told that the 2 of our colleagues, they couldn't join us because of some technical problems. So we'll like to open the discussion among us, 4 of us, and then we'll carry on. I have some questions that came to me, and I would like to share them with you. This question that asks about what are the changes needed to implement. What are the key changes we need to implement in education system to teach the concept of a human fraternity? So I don't know if any of you can. So what are the changes we need to implement education system to teach the concept of fraternity? Well, Dr. Yahya would like to go with this, because you said you were you informed us that you a lot of training in education.
Yes, thank you. Well, in the field of education, to make it brief, my first suggestion would be, let us not confuse the internal doctrinal religious education with the education on religions. So there are 2 different contexts. One is the education that one can receive in religious classes or in religious private schools or in Jewish seminaries, Christian institutes, mosques. So religious context, private religious education on how to behave as a believer in practical terms. This is religious education.
You're right.
Especially in the West, in Europe, we have education on religions. So it's a different methodology, and we have to try to teach the debate is either to teach history of religions or to teach religions as, if I may say, cultural and spiritual entities with their varieties and differences. So in any way you put it, it's not a confessional education, it's an education on the richness and the pluralism of religious identities. This is my first point. The second point is that in Europe and in the West, we need to avoid this gap between the secular civil society, the institutions, and religions, as if religions is a very personal, private dimension. It is also a private dimension, of course, but it's part of, for believers, it's part of their citizenship. There is no confusion, there is no conflict, but it's part of a way of behaving as a citizen and as a believer. So one has to find ways to link the knowledge of religions in the context of normal, conventional education. But my last point is it has to be on the variety and the diversities of religions. So what is the content? It cannot be, I am in the European schools, we teach only Christianity, or we teach only a melting pot of different religious identities. No, we need to learn the differences of every religion through history. And I think that it could be a very important way to approach the Human Fraternity Declaration by trying to have a pedagogical and method in teaching the moments of crisis and the moments of cooperation. We need to know the best practice examples and the difficulties among religious communities in history and in different societies. So there were moments in history, sad, dramatic moments, where religion was abused or was or a religious community was victims, and we need to study why and what happened and who behaved in which way, in the wrong way, creating disorder and conflicts and crisis. And on the other side, we need to teach also how Jews, Muslims, Christians have been helping each other, progressing intellectually, discovering brotherhood, and developing cooperations in different fields of literature, science, society, knowledge, and every field of life. So I think this is something we need to, it's a proposal as to how to implement the bad side and the good positive examples as well. And very sorry, my last point is, of course, this is coming from Italy. Religion should not be a pretext or a reason to not to have all students together in the class. I think all students should share the teaching of religions and not having a taboo on religion because this is something that is too private or too special. I think religion, spirituality, symbolism, the narrative of universal values of every doctrine is part of something which can be very interesting also for someone who is not a believer, because it's part of a very important culture of belonging and behavior in our contemporary world. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Yahya. And just for precision, I mean, because there exists in Europe some teaching, well, maybe not as you want to describe, but the comparative religions. But well, yeah, a comparative religion. I think there exists some, but I think it's only in specialized universities, not that generalized. So, at what level could one introduce such teaching? I mean,
my idea is that this is I was speaking for the normal school. So it can be adapted in terms of languages on primary or secondary school. This can be adapted. But you mentioned something which is quite interesting, which is comparative religions. This is something for university level. So this is not something that goes to the school. I think the young students, as they have colleagues coming from the Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu background, they need to also have a teacher that is trained to religious pluralism and cooperation. And the concrete example of the Abu Dhabi Declaration with Pope Francis and Sheikh Al-Azhar, Imam Ahmed Al-Tayyib, representing in somehow Catholic and Sunni Islam representatives is a concrete model of success, brotherhood, and international engagement. And as Mohammed Bashari has mentioned, of course, this has also previous historical experiences. But I think that the Human Fraternity Declaration is something that is easy to be implemented as an example in schools at different levels, primary and secondary school as well.
Thank you, Dr. Yahya. Thank you very much for this clarification. And I don't know if my colleagues would like to add, Adel Jail or Dr. Muhammad, if you have something to add on this point in particular, or
very briefly, I would like to say that what has been outlined by Dr. Pallavicini is clear, and there's maybe there's two ways. Either there's the possibility to create a sort of structure like an NGO, an advocacy organization that would push globally, or at least in some regions of the world, for such let's say, such courses on the history of religion or compared religions. However, it's true that compared religions, it's rather on the level, on the university level. But in schools, high schools, it's possible within existing programs to have more courses on religion. When I was at the Lyceum or the college in France, I remember we had chapters and modules on the history of the Islamic civilization, and as well on other religions. Depends as well the program you have in the country or in the region, and as well the textbooks chosen by the teacher. But I guess there is already some kind of room for maneuver, and there are already windows of opportunity. It's true that we should maybe as well avoid a sort of melting pot of all religions, a sort of new age teaching or culture. Because first of all, I think it's a sort of disrespect for all traditions. You just reduce them to very basic and common values. Well, why not? It's good to see we have things in common, but at the same time, we may miss all the differences or the specificities of each tradition. And it's not good. It's not good. We should avoid that. So we should, in a way, provide information about religious traditions, but make sure we respect their integrity. So I guess it's up to the schools to have such kind of courses. In Switzerland, for example, in some canton, in some states, let's say local states, because it's a federal system, you have schools where you have, not on the university level, on the school level, you have classes dealing with history of religion. It's not really like the course where you can have a priest coming and teaching things on your own religion. It can be done, by the way. It's feasible, but it's more like classes where you would have a teacher or a religious leader. They have maybe a few hours or a few days to cover, let's say, their topic on their religion, and it can be organized like that. Now, in countries like Switzerland or other countries in Europe, with regard to the way their secularism is defined, it wouldn't pose many problems. I worked there in France. Many people think about it, but with regard to the current debates on the role of Islam or just basically secularism as such, and the fact that its definition is too narrow, and some people don't want to change its definition, we may face a harsh debate about the introduction of courses on religion in classes. It's not impossible, it can be done, but there will be a big work of clarification to be done, especially with radical secularists or atheists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to announce now they've been have been informed that the I don't know what they call the misbar, the instrument sent to March, the Emirati. I forgot the name in English, but it's in Arabic is the misbar. It just got into the March orbit, and this is, I think, one of the illustration of an aspect of the illustration of brotherhood of men, I think. And they've just been informed of this. Dr. Muhammad, I think he has some other obligation. I think he is going to leave us. Muhammad, and thank you very much. شكرا في حضورك. الله يخليك. And we can continue our discussion. I don't know if he is the. No, we're still here. Just Dr. Muhammad, I think he had some obligation and he's going to leave us. I just want, there is another question that I think before, beside education, there is this recurring question about the use of technology. Would that be a catalyst or an inhibitor for the promotion of understanding between people of different backgrounds? Which means, especially when we talk about technology of media, or the social media, and actually, does it serve, or how can it be used into this in our endeavor to install an understanding between people of different backgrounds and to promote these principles of humanity and fraternity? I know, I don't know if you have, is it an inhibitor or is it a catalyst for more understanding among people? Dr. Yahya,
Yes, well, thank you. Actually, I have been sharing exactly yesterday an interreligious debate with the Vatican and the chief rabbi of Rome on the use of social media, especially for children. If I may say, my view, and it was actually shared by the cardinal and the rabbi, is that there is, of course, there is no use to have a aggressive, critical attitude towards social media. But of course, you have to be conscious that it's a different system, and we are losing a lot, and we are having more opportunities as well. So there are some benefits. Benefits are mostly in terms of numbers. So through the internet and through social media, you can easily join many persons and give a good audience a short and easy message. But the challenge is not so. So this would be probably something where we gain through the social media. Where we lose is in terms of quality, because at the end, psychologically, if a student is used only to learn through the internet, through a video, he will lose interpersonal sensitivity, and the relation, the traditional relation of adult and youngster, the traditional relation of student and teacher might be lost, because the teacher becomes the video, becomes the phone, becomes the computer, becomes the social media. And so it's not anymore a transmission, literally speaking, of knowledge from a knowledge person who is in search of knowledge. And so there we are losing something in terms of human quality, transmission, and also natural way of question and answer. My conclusion is that yes, we need to take into consideration the positive means that social media and internet give us, but we have to try to find new ways to integrate these means with traditional ways of relation and transmission of knowledge. Because otherwise, I'm afraid we will lose a generation, and the communication will be completely changed.
Humanized,
so
yeah.
we were not anymore used to have a natural discussion and conversation and even disagreement, because everyone will find what he wants for. He will be looking for through the Google whatever he wants, and he has no discrimination in terms of wisdom on who is reliable, what is useful, and what is interesting, because he will choose what he wants, and at the end he will be master of himself, which unfortunately is completely negative in terms of educational impact through the social media. So we should not demonize the social media. We have to use them, but let us be very aware of the impact and finding ways to integrate other solutions with the social media or next to the social media.
Thank you very much. Thank you. تفضل Mr. Jill.
Well, I would like to say that I agree with Dr. Pallavicini. Social media as another modern tools can be very useful. However, it's true that they have a negative impact with regard to human contact, with regard to learning. I'm teaching as well, and I have realized that internal tools, IT tools, are very useful in many ways to organize such kind of conference, to have online classes with students abroad. However, we are losing some interesting dynamics, the relationship between the students and their teacher. I mean, it's all about some kind of dynamics that we don't have, some human dynamics, so it's a problem. I guess we are in a way prisoner of the COVID-19, of the context.
Yeah.
And as well of globalization in a way, because all these tools are like unavoidable now. And it's really very hard sometimes to push students, especially younger generations, to push them back to more conventional methods of teaching, and as well more classical methods of making connections with people. I think one way, I was thinking about it, it could be interesting maybe to find ways to gather the young people from various religious backgrounds, either to some kind of conferences where they could talk, exchange, discuss about what are the challenges, what are the gaps, but as well maybe the bridges they can build. Not a sort of new age thing, not at all. It shouldn't be that. It should be rather like a real sort of conference. What can we do? What are the problems? To talk frankly about these things. But there is as well another way, which could take more time, but would be very interesting. I think that Scouts movement, we have a lot of them in Christianity, Islam, and the Jews as well. They have it. Other religions as well. But in Europe, we have still these organizations. Sometimes scouts or some young people in NGOs or even religious NGOs, they go abroad to help people. I think it could be good to think about punctual missions where Muslim, Jewish, and Christian scouts could not just talk and exchange, but participate, contribute to rebuild, to help farmers, to provide humanitarian assistance. It can be done in many countries, by the way, in Europe or in the Middle East.
Africa.
Yeah, you have poor people affected by war. So, I mean, it's a way, and it's what I've experienced myself in Afghanistan. Once you're in the same boat with people, let's say I was a Christian in a way, and I had my Muslim colleagues, and some of them from various backgrounds. I had some Sufi, some Shia, some Sunni, from the tribal areas of Pakistan. So it was very interesting to see, in fact, what was common, what we had in common. It's very easy to say, oh, we are humans, we have things common, but you have to find a balance and equilibrium between your differences that you want to preserve and that others should understand, at least respect, and what we can do together. And really, once you're in the same boat, you start to see that, well, we have our differences. We want maybe to preserve these differences, but there shouldn't be gaps. And we shouldn't rather think about the bridges, about the problems we have in common and the ways we can solve these things in common. So scouts can be a good way. And in France, we believe that there is a sort of proverb that, if I translate it, says that traveling makes the Yalf. In a way, traveling is good for you, is good for your life, for your perception.
Exactly. But I mean, it sounds very practical, and but where are the resistance? Why is such? Where do resistance lies? I mean, your proposition, the proposition of Dr. Yahya, they sound, I would say, feasible and quite doable. I mean, where don't we do them? I mean, we have known in Europe, especially in France, this late times, a very heated debate, there's ongoing debate about misunderstandings and, or what France went through. But in spite of all this, they didn't give rise to constructive proposals that people come and debate and all that. So where the resistance lies, I don't know. I mean, you have any?
If I may briefly, and then Dr. Pallavicini, I would be happy to hear you, but I think that the problem is that there is dispersion. There are many initiatives on the NGO level, on the level of churches, or even of very local congregations. You have initiatives at the UN. You have sometimes initiatives just made by clerics themselves, a priest, an imam, or maybe a rabbi. Like there are initiatives like that in Palestine, for example. I think what we lack in this case is a focus. If we want to do something, we should know where and who we can contact. And I think maybe through this Abu Dhabi declaration, if an organization becomes more visible through events, through communication, through various people who are, I would say, participating to that, gradually people see, oh, there is this initiative, very sort of center. And making this Abu Dhabi declaration more visible, especially at the UN, that would be, first of all, a first step. And then, like a pyramid, you see the top, and then it goes down to all the different levels or people who are involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this sounds very, very exciting ideas. Dr. Yahya?
Yes, I completely agree with what Professor Gilles Emmanuel Jacquet has mentioned. In terms of what I would add to this is that we have to try to find ways to help a changement of mentality, at least I think in the East as well as in the West. There are different ways of changing and different sides of mentality to change. But one of the, I think, secrets of the Human Fraternity Declaration is actually to help each one to open to the other, to open to the knowledge and to the respect of the other. And the other is different from what we are, and the other is different from what we think he is or she is. So we have to revise our idea of ourselves and of the other. And so I think this is a psychological test to be more intellectually honest and open to discovery, to discover the truth of ourselves and of the other through experience and through cooperation, and without having any positive or negative prejudice, because even the positive prejudice is a negative one. so this is, I think, something what I would say. So the changement of the other, and I remember again our colleague from Switzerland mentioned that the second point would be to try to have an efficient dialogue with institutions or with some politicians to somehow update the juridical framework.
Exactly.
Because the juridical framework is not anymore consistent with the vision of the Human Fraternity Declaration. It's in somehow out of date. So we have to implement, update, change even some juridical dimensions in terms of education, in terms of social action, in terms of pluralism or religious freedom, in terms also of the relation between politics and religion, for instance,
Exactly.
because that's another taboo. Religion should not go into politics, which I agree. But on the other side, when a believer is a citizen and goes to work in politics, he can do it. But the important thing is to be somehow wise and sensitive and consistent with his religious role and with his political responsibility. But otherwise, we are creating really ghettos that are not in communication one to the other. But in synthesis, 2 points. One is the cultural changement, and the other one is juridical updates.
Yeah, I think this is one of the points that Dr. Gilles also developed, and I think he didn't have time then to make it more explicit, but I think this is one paradox, in fact, the big paradox that exists. Even how can you deal with some conflicts that are religious basis, or that's how they are seen, without an adequate juridical, juridical disposition. So, would you like to extend on this, Dr. Gilles?
Well, I would say I'm not, by the way, a specialist of these legal debates. I mean, I don't have a solution. It's rather what I would say. If I take into account just the French context, it's true that the definition we have about secularism is old. It's the one we had at the French Revolution, and it's the one we had at the beginning of the 20th century, when religious orders, let's say, were put under strict state control, where their properties were even seized. By the way, it was a very tough period at that time because it looked a bit like a civil war. We had a sort of very harsh definition of secularism. And I have to say that now it seems to be a bit outdated. The fact that we want to discuss about it in France is scaring, especially atheists or people who are supporting this old definition. They think it would change like the ethos of the French Republic, or even worse, the ethos of the French national identity or culture or history. It's true that we're in a context where you have less people declaring themselves as Christians. With migrations or demographic growth, we have more people considering themselves as Muslims. It's true. So now the point is, how can this law or new law reflect properly this context, and trying once again maybe to find a proper balance between the requirements of state institutions to have common peace or social peace. People shouldn't have the feeling that Christianity or Islam or Judaism is privileged over another one. That's not really a challenge, but it's a challenge with regard to the perception of some believers sometimes. And we have so to find this equilibrium between ensuring peaceful and common harmony and framework, where religion is not suppressed, but where religion is not creating gaps or division. That's the point. So I think once again, the debate in France, and that's maybe something peculiar to French recent history or culture, it's very hard to have an appeased debate on this issue of secularism. But honestly, even the harshest advocates of secularism in France very recognize that the law has to be adopted in a way or another, especially with regard to the current context.
Exactly. Is the things to present themselves the same way in Italy, or is there different problems?
Well, no, there is a difference. I have been, if I may say, unfortunately, following the debate in France, especially after President Macron's presentation on his proposal for law on separatism, with a reference so-called to Islamist ghettos or issues. In Italy, the situation of a certain discrimination would be probably for the moment a minority political agenda of certain political groups that are rather populist or suprematist ideologies that are against migrants, against religious diversity, against Islam. They might be silent on Judaism and they pretend to be close to Christianity, but they do not have the support of the majority of the Christian Catholic hierarchy. So they might have some supporters, but that's something, of course, which is unfortunately part of the complexities of having reliable sources and abusing of connections. But having said that, no, maybe in Italy, we have been facing on one side a very clear cut between the church, the Christian Catholic Church, the place of the Pope, of the Christian Catholic community, and the system of secular democracy of a liberal community as the Italian system tries to implement. So there was this difference, and on the other side there were also political center Christian-oriented parties that in somehow found the way to propose a link between being Christian and being a politician, and trying to present Christian values in terms of a political agenda for the Italian government, which is something that also has a European dimension with the Central Democrat PPE political party. And this is something which is interesting because this is another story. It's a story of of Christianity trying to find, as civil society, a role in politics without Christianizing the system, but without being put apart or confused with the institutional Vatican Christian Church. So this is quite an interesting historical and sociological discussion. The last point would be, of course, that probably Italy is not so in somehow Italy is used to try to have a debate between Christianity and secular society. What it is not, was not used to have in Italy is to have a debate between secular society and pluralism of religious communities, identities, and doctrines. And sometimes you find two extremes. On one side, you have double standards. So yes, we can accept that Christians are part of Italian society and culture, but we cannot accept that other religious identities can be part of our culture. So this is one narrow-minded debate. And on the other side, you have others that would say that sometimes even other religious minorities are helping Christians to somehow defend our common sacred religious values. So because there is a secularization process within Christianity, and maybe there is a less secularized process within the Jewish rabbinical school in Italy, and maybe with some of, if I may say, our organization is actually trying to link with the secular contemporary postmodern society, but being consistent with a religious, spiritual, doctrinal, symbolical dimension. And so this helps also our Christian brothers and sisters to defend together our religious values and symbols and behaviors without any stigmatization or any speculation. So I think this is part of the debate, I would say, in Italy. But my last point would be that unfortunately there is still some anti-clerical attacks. There is still a rise of anti-Semitism against Jews, and there is unfortunately a speculation of confusion and aggression also against Muslims as believers and citizens in Italy as well. So it's a complex debate on different sides.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this clarification. It's very enlightening, and it's good to know the position in Italy, in France, and I think so far we have somehow treated so many points, and then I think that from all your interventions, I think we can conclude that the context is really ripe for to start to build on this initiative, the Brotherhood initiative, and then maybe finding a common umbrella that can, of course, put together all your precious experience and proposition, in fact, that you have made. And really, we hope to continue this debate, and hoping, in fact, first of all, I don't want to be elitist. It doesn't only concerns the research centers, but also to be one point among to become a really popular cultural initiatives at the level of the as Dr. Jill have proposed, the Scout and all that. And in the name of our center, Trans, would like to thank you very much for your time, for your participation. We, in fact, learned a lot with you, with your different experiment, with different experience, and we would like to stay into touch in order to, put together our efforts to make this a success, really. And but before we leave, I would like to just have here an announcement to make. Is that on the 15th of February, this will be there will be another e-debate, and it will be under the title of Unblocking Potentials Within Individuals and Communities to Shape a Better Future. That will be on the 15th of February at the same time at 7 o'clock. Again, would like to thank you very much, and wishing
Thanks to you.
to discuss with you and to see you another time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you as well for your analysis. That's great.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. God bless you.
You too. مع السلامة. You too.
Thank you.
مع السلامة أخي يحيى.
Looking forward to develop this cooperation.
Absolutely. Absolutely دكتور يحيى. مع السلامة. شكرا لكم.